Guys, today we're going to do a comparison between the Galaxy S22 Ultra and the S20 Ultra here. So it's very interesting comparison here. So if you don't have either of these phones, you could go the old flagship route, or you could go with the newer S22. Or if you have a S20 Ultra and you're thinking about upgrading, let's go over the pros and cons. So the S22 Ultra, roughly still around $1,000 for this phone. The S20 Ultra you can pick up for $300 to $350. I'll have that link down below here. So let's go ahead and just start off with the hardware here. So you can see two different phones here. As you can see, the S22 Ultra pretty much takes on the Note body style here. Traditionally, S series phones would look like this, where it's more curved, and I actually prefer that feel in the hand. Like I said, I say it in a lot of my videos, it fits better in the palm. The S22 Ultra does look extremely cool looking phone. The design has just really grown on me, and yeah, I really do like it. You can see I like the updated camera that they have on here. It just looks a little bit cleaner compared to the S20 Ultra here. As far as the size, they both actually are about the same size. I think the S22 is slightly a little bit taller, but they both feel about the same weight. They're both glass and metal, and they're both IP68 dust and water resistant. Now there is a big hardware difference here with these two phones. The S22 Ultra does have the built-in S Pen. So anybody that is into digital artwork, or if you're into drawing and stuff like that, then you'll really like the S Pen. It's extremely accurate, like I said. So anybody that just wants to navigate with a stylus or do digital artwork, you absolutely love that. One of the big hardware differences also is that the S20 Ultra does have SD card support and the S22 does not. So do take that into consideration, because if you take a lot of video, download a lot of stuff, you're gonna have just way more storage on the S20 Ultra, because you can honestly just pop up like a 512 gigabyte card in this phone and you'll be good. So definitely remember that. But yeah, I do really like the hardware on both of these phones. Alright, so let's talk about the screens on both of these two phones. Slightly different approaches on the screen, and also definitely some key things you need to know here. So the S20 Ultra does have a 6.9 inch dynamic AMOLED display. It's 1440p, 511 for the PPI. It gets a max brightness of 1400 nits, and it's 120 hertz. The S22 Ultra has a 6.8 inch display, and then it's also 1440p, and it has a 500 for the PPI, and it's 120 hertz HDR10 plus, 1750 nits peak brightness. So it is a much, well, I wouldn't say much, but it is a brighter display. You'll definitely notice the difference. And one of the big differences here is that, one, you have a more curved design on the screen versus the more squared off design. Again, that really comes down to personal preference. It's just something that look aesthetic, right? So it really comes down to what you like. But the big difference here is that while both of these phones run at 120 hertz, the S22 Ultra runs at 120 hertz at 1440p, and the S20 Ultra does not. It can only run 120 hertz at full HD. So take that into consideration as well too. So again, the S22 Ultra, technically better display here. It runs at 120 hertz. It's a brighter display as well too. As far as the screen design, like I said, it really comes down to personal preference there. But they pretty much look identical head on, besides those two things. And when I say identical, I mean quality wise. Let's talk about the specs a little bit more here. So with the S22 Ultra, we do have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chip on here. And we also have no SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 8 gigs of RAM. This is a base model S22. On the S20, we do have on here the Snapdragon 865 chip. We have micro SD card support, and we also have on here 128 gigs of internal storage. And then we have the base model with 12 gigs of RAM. So you do get more RAM on the base model S20 Ultra. Alright, so basically when it comes down to performance here, not too big of a performance jump actually. I would even go and say that the 865 chip doesn't heat up as much as the 8 Gen 1 chip when doing long periods of gaming. So that's also another benefit. Now, of course, the 8 Gen 1 is going to be the more powerful chip. It scores higher in pretty much any benchmark you throw at it. But as far as the average person you won't really notice too much of a difference when it comes to performance, like general performance, launching apps. They both are pretty much the same. And what's interesting here is gaming performance. So I noticed that I actually can get 90 frames on the S20 Ultra, and that option is not there on the S22 Ultra like you guys will see in PUBG here. But alright guys, you guys can see right here on PUBG, we do have the 90 frames option on the S20 Ultra, and if you guys never played any games in 90 frames, it is a big difference from 60 frames. It just feels extremely like instant. And on the S22 Ultra here, while we do get a very good gaming experience, you know, there's no 90 frames option on PUBG, and you'll find that sort of theme throughout on the S20 Ultra. You have a lot of options for 90 frames. So yeah, so overall, that's one thing I guess that you kind of have an advantage over. Even though the S22 Ultra is more powerful, this still has, you know, technically better settings. All right, let's go ahead and check out the speaker quality between these two devices. Max volume, start with the S22. Yeah, again, the S20 Ultra does have a slight edge in terms of speaker. It's just overall a little bit louder and the bass hits a little bit harder. I'm starting to think this is probably, because I've compared this to all of Samsung's major flagships, the S22 Ultra. I think this might be Samsung's worst speakers that they put in a flagship. Now that I've actually heard all of them compared to all of the other older flagships. Also, let's talk about biometrics here. Biometrics pretty much feel the same. I don't really feel too much of a difference when it comes to the biometrics. They pretty much feel instant. They're both really good. You can also take advantage of face unlock as far as your software experience. So here's also another very important thing. The S20 Ultra, this year it gets Android 13, and that's its last major OS update, and it'll currently get 3 years of security patches. The S22 Ultra gets 4 major OS updates and 5 years of security patches. So take that into consideration as well too. As far as the software experience goes, it's pretty much the same. Samsung desktop support is here. Reverse wireless charging is here. Everything that is on this phone is on this phone software wise, besides the S Pen features. Alright guys, let's talk about the camera. So the S20 Ultra has a 108 megapixel standard, a 48 megapixel periscope telephoto. It does 4x optical and then 10x hybrid, and you also have a 12 megapixel ultra wide 0.3 depth sensor. It can shoot 8K 24, and then a 40 megapixel selfie cam on the front, and then you have a 4K 60 video. The S22 Ultra has a pretty similar setup. It's a 108 megapixel standard, 10 megapixel periscope telephoto, 10 megapixel telephoto, 3x optical zoom, then another 12 megapixel ultra wide. Shoots in 8K 24, there's a macro mode, and then you also have 40 megapixel selfie cam with 4K 60 video. I'm going to show you guys some of these side-by-side stills. Alright guys, here's the video on the S20 Ultra. Zoom in a little bit. Let me know how the mic sounds. Alright guys, here's the video on the Ultra. Let's see, I got my 3x, 10x, and then I can go ahead and bounce to my 0.6. Alright, so lastly, the battery life experience is pretty much the same on these two phones. So they both have a 5,000 milliamp battery and they both have 45-watt charging with wireless and reverse wireless charging. I'm pretty much feeling like I'm getting the same screen on time with these two phones. I don't really feel too much of a difference when it comes to battery life. They both last a full day, which is good. So that is pretty much it, guys. Be sure to let me know which phone would you guys take. Would you guys take the the cheaper S20 Ultra, or would you guys go ahead and get the S22 Ultra? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.